said painting it? I can't remember where I bought it. Probably brought out. Makes it much simpler.
I live on Fitzer Drive and I'm a member of a group of concerned residents, and what our main worry is that this block of land, lot 5182, is going to be leased out to Jape Group and turned into sheds, maybe warehouses, sheds, showrooms, light industrial, car parks, we don't know. The residents feel, along with the residents, we all feel that we've been let down, that this was done without us knowing.
Nothing to do with you, it's GDA's land, mate. Nothing to do with you. You got your own property, you fucking look after your own property, mate.
It's Darwin people's land.
This is Larrakia land before you fucking come here, mate. This is Larrakia country before you come out and give a fuck. I swear at you. You're not picking up a stick about a fucking land that's got nothing to do with you. Go back to where you come from. This not my place, this is Larrakia country. We don't have to tell you what we have a fucking committee that organises what we do on our association. I don't speak for no Larrakia because you know why I'm a Larrakia? I come from the right established. Where the fuck you come from? Where you come from? I do speak. Where you come from? You don't know the Larrakia.
Well, when I first came here, Fitzer Drive wasn't developed. And I'd rather preserve Darwin as
we went through the court procedure. They don't have to know what we fucking do on our land. It's the association's land.
We get government funding. We don't.
Okay, and I'd just like to say that this gentleman here has advised all the people who live in Fitzer Drive to move house. Would you like to talk to the camera and explain that?
I mean, what I'm saying is this. Here's the question of principle. People who live on Fitzer Drive think that one of the problems with Darwin at the moment is that there are some people who come to Darwin 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, unlike my family which came here 129 years ago, who want to preserve Darwin as it was in the year in which they arrived, whether it was 2002 or 1992 or 1982. If that were the case, I would rather Darwin be preserved as it was when I was in Darwin kindergarten, when there were 4,000 people here, or when my grandfather came here when there were 3,700 Chinese and 300 white people.
So what's your name, mate? What's your name?
My name is Michael Chin.
Michael Chin, okay. My name's Robin Smith.
Now, basically, what I'm saying is this, that there should be a situation of tolerance. People should accept.
You call that tolerance?
Well, you know, they're pretty upset because people have been telling a pack of lies about the land. I've been hearing some of them.
You've spoken for 2 minutes.
Oh yeah. You think that having sheds and car parks opposite our houses will do us good financially? Well, who actually believes that? Does anyone believe that? Do you believe that, David?
What's that? Our homes will increase in value having a concrete jungle.
Sheds and car parks opposite our houses are going to increase the value of our houses. Have you seen Jape Homemaker Village itself on Bagot Road over there? Have you seen the fence, tiny little shrubs not looked after? So,
but it doesn't because it's a residential.
People actually want to keep this native land. We don't want built up areas everywhere.
Development means this. No, but hang on. We've got to get something clear. This land can't stay like it is. It's in a lot of ways a health risk. You can see there's weeds and stuff all through there. It's been a dumping ground for years. I mean, just staying the way it is not an option for anyone.
David, I've talked to people from the Larrakia people. They want to see this land. This is their land. They connect with this land. This is cultural. This is historical. There is TV burial ground up there. There is men's ceremony ground there. Please listen, David. Men's ceremonial ground there. This is where Larrakia and TV used to battle and fight. They want to see this as a park. They want to see this as their cultural connection. If this goes, what have they got left?
Let me just respond to that. Hang on.
Yeah.
Right, advises the Aboriginal Areas Protection Authority on what is sacred and what's not. She's also a member of the Tommy Lyons group, who you might know is identified in the Justice Gray claim as on Kenby as one of the traditional owners of the area. Now, you know, I don't know where the fighting occurred, where the burial ground is, but to know that, you'd have to talk to Helen and some of the other people here to say,
talk to Helen in the mood she is in. Well, she's threatened to hit someone with a stick just now.
But in fairness, they're in a situation, you're talking about adding value to
like you might see.
They're in a situation where they have no value.
Sure, we all heard that.
And they're trying to derive an income, an economic benefit from the land that they've been granted. And they're saying that all of these things have to come to us. Absolutely, and no one's ruling that out.
What about ecotourism? What about a green belt between Lee Point and East Point? What about, I'd like to talk about this too. I don't know if you know about this, Michael. There is a huge pile of stones over there. That's supposed to be on conservation land. There's people still, we've spoken to planning about that because we feel that that is an eyesore on an otherwise beautiful road, Dickwood Drive. We feel that that is an eyesore. We've spoken to planning. They said it's illegal. We've seen trucks going in there still putting rocks on that pile.
David, let me
To ask me,
why are we here?
why are we here? Well, there's a lot of residents here. There's a lot of people concerned about development in the Darwin area here. I think that's why a lot of us are here. I think some of the Larrakia people are here.
If you use the wireless microphone, it's better.
About
right.
the development. Any other questions?
What's a wireless?
Okay, there's between Dickwood Drive, between Dickwood Drive and Bagot Road, just behind where you are, will be a line of sheds.
42 industrial sheds.
42 industrial sheds, probably anything up to 3 stories high, 14 metres, with a lot of car park land. That also that the top northwest part of this bush block will have another development on there, and that will be a 2-story development. That will be, in fact, be on an Tiwi grave. This land, of course, is in the surge zone. That means if there is a storm, there will be problems with tide coming here.
And chemicals coming into the residential area.
All right, and there will be leaching of chemicals from the development into residential area, in fact, into the sea, into Ludmilla Creek and the mangroves near East Point.
What do you think's going down the creek now?
Excuse me, I have a question.
Chemicals.
I'm not anti anyone earning an income for their families. I think it's fantastic that a community doesn't want to take handouts. I think that's amazing, that you want to make money for future generations. But I was wondering how viable is some sort of eco-sustainable development in terms of, as opposed to an industrial development on this land here. Is there another way that these people can make money instead of having just sheds and showrooms and a concrete jungle?
Yes.
Is there another way they can make money?
That's a good, yes, there is another way. People have spoken to me about putting a park here. A park that connects with the community, with the Aboriginal community of Darwin. A park that would be looked after. A park that would have native plants and animals. That what's happened after Cyclone Tracy, grassland has invaded this block and made it very difficult for native trees to regenerate. This is in fact part of a green corridor or wildlife corridor or green belt between East Point and Lee Point. There's probably more than a quarter of Australian bird species seen between Lee Point and East Point. I think that this could be very good for ecological tourism, for so-called ecotourism. I think that when tourists come to Darwin, they want to see green spaces, they want to see about the history of the people, the original people, that we could have signage near the sites. I don't think people who come to Darwin on holiday really want to see yet another set of sheds and parking lots. That's not what they come here for. Darwin is a unique city in Australia, and that's what people like about it. Part of that uniqueness is its wide open green spaces. It's healthy outdoor activities. I don't think that car park and sheds are the way to go. Are there any other questions? Michael?
Yeah, I'd like to, in terms of the Aboriginal cultural value...
Yeah, go to microphone. Have you got a question?
He's going to put
Yeah, he's going to take over.
I'd like to inform you that as part of the development proposals, it's proposed to include an Aboriginal cultural centre, which will provide for ecotourism and so on, where Aboriginal people are making artefacts, putting on performances, and taking people on tours around that wonderful land on the other side of Dick Ward Drive.
For the rocks.
So, look, you know, some people like to listen and some people like to talk, but some people would like to have the opportunity to do both. But I think that all of these things we've seen, mate, all of these things can be taken into account. And it's a matter of really trying to coexist and trying to be positive and working with the development so that it works. One of the important things about the conditions that the Minister applied when he approved the amendment of the town plan was that there should be a master plan developed.
They can't hear you at the back, Michael.
There's a draft master plan that's going to be subject to comment, submissions by other people. The final master plan will take into account submissions that people make.
Michael, when did the submissions have to be in?
What date?
I'm not calling it. It's the Department of Lands and Planning Development Consent Authority
we'll all
that's
be
driving
notified
it.
when the
So you need to make inquiries with the Department of Lands and Planning.
Okay.
And as part of that, there will be this. As part of the development, there will be an agricultural centre, which where the people will take people on tours of the camping grounds, the fishing grounds over there, the secret places that people who are really familiar with the Gwalwa Daraniki people know about. And it's great, you know, to go over there.
Yeah, then they can look at the sheds
Thank you,
across
Michael.
the road.
But will they be able to show them the Aboriginal sites that have been built over with car parks and sheds on this block? I don't think so. And I don't... Sorry, just wait a second. I want to reply to Michael. I don't... Excuse me. I don't remember seeing in any of the plans about this proposed cultural part of the development.
Oh, no.
Yes,
Maybe that's a
yes.
back room, like all deals are done in this town, right?
We haven't seen it. It's not there.
There are Tiwi burial sites on this land.
Yes.
Okay, do you know who they are when the government wants clearance on sacred sites in this town from here right to the inputs? Do you know?
Tell us, got any
That lady over there, who is one of the 7 main families of the Larrakia tribe, they asked her for the clearance. Now, I understand
She's
from what I
representing
heard,
Bobby and Topsy's secretary, isn't she? Yeah.
she's the daughter of Topsy's.
Yeah, sure, that's right.
Are you saying she's not?
So, can I just ask you a question? Are you telling me that those sites don't exist on this block?
I go.
No, one at a time, please, Michael.
I don't want to provide the answer. I'm not saying they don't exist. That's the lady they are, officially. Now, you saying she's alive?
I'm saying that I've been told by Larrakia people.
Well, she's one of the main Larrakia people. Don't you understand that?
It's a different generation.
Well, you show me another generation that's telling me.
Ernie, we're Larrakia people. We never got consulted about this. The
sorry.
white Larrakia people did not get consulted about this. I am a Larrakia person. My grandfather is William Thomas McLennan. William Thomas McLennan.
Guys, can we have a bit of order, please? Can we have...
Larrakia for our fucking land.
Are there any more questions, please?
The right land that belongs to us too. Not just dollar signs. It's not about dollar signs. And so we don't want this city and press dollar machine pressing back $10. It's future. Yeah.
When I read a book,
I don't need to read book. I talk spiritually to them. I don't need a one-man book.
In July,
I don't need
July
a
14th
book.
to July 1 of that, only a
I
couple of months
spiritually
ago,
talk to my grandfather and my Jape. My Jape.
in
You know what
relation to
Jape is?
sacred sites. What they've done is they've identified
That
a
dollar
burial
sign for
ground,
him up.
and they've said that there will be
Dollar sign
no
for you just
construction
go
on
city,
that
press on
burial
back.
ground. So David is not right when he says that there's going to be a shed.
My name will be back to the Sky City and press back.
It'll have to be amended. And the Aboriginal and the Aboriginal Protection Authority has also ordered that if during construction skeletal remains are found anywhere during the course of construction, is to cease immediately and the matter is to be reported to the authority. So there will be adequate protection for Aboriginal protection heritage issues. In relation to
My father, Dr. McLennan, Ernie Chin, you know, Larrakia man.
Arrangements will be set up under
Ernie
which
Chin will tell
there will be
you.
no risk to the owners of the land. There will be no risk that they could lose the land. And what will happen is that the developer will develop at their cost. They will take the risk, and the Gwalwa Daraniki Association will get income from the land at an agreed proportion. And what they'll do is they'll use it to look after the community, the communities that live over there. There are 3 communities. The inner families who live in Kulaluk, about 20 houses there. The Minmarama people, about 20 houses there. And there's also the Juninga Nurses Home, where Indigenous people, old folks live. All of those people, if they weren't living there, they would be housed in other welfare housing around. But it's very convenient for them, and it's they can live their traditional lifestyle and they can use the income from development. They've got 261 hectares, and of which they're proposing, this area is about 40 hectares. David, do you want to just...
How many years?
Can I just explain what's happened to date and where the process is going? I know everyone's sort of getting a bit heated and people have got a particular point of view.
Dave, put the mic close to your mouth, mate.
No worries, mate. Can you hear that? So what's occurred here is that this block of land has been rezoned. It was rezoned under the previous government. About a quarter or a third of it has been rezoned that allows development. The other 3/4 or 2/3, whatever's left, has to be left as, can't be built upon. My understanding, having spoken to the developers and the GDA people, is that they want to see the area cleaned up, some of the weeds taken out, and made, open for people to wander through and enjoy. This third or quarter or whatever has not yet received Development Consent Authority approval. It still has to go through that process. What the proponents of this site have done is that they've put together a draft master plan, which before the election many of you would have received a copy of from me. I spoke to the developers, they were quite happy for people to look at it. Well, of course they are, and the fact is, and I hope that we can take a bit of fire out of this, they are looking for feedback from the community to make sure that it's developed in an appropriate way that suits as many people in the community as they can. Clearly that there will be some people who don't want to see this land touched at all, and that unfortunately I don't think will happen. The fact is that there will be some sort of development occurring here. The only question that we're dealing with at the moment is what type of development it's going to be. From what I can gather, the local Indigenous people are quite interested to know what people want here. Certainly the developers are interested to know what's appropriate, and from a government perspective and as your local member, I am very keen to see that as many people are satisfied in this process as possible. So we're not going to be having any secret Development Consent Authority meetings.
Dave, can you answer this question?
Let me hang on.
Why didn't NLC
we've got the Greens turn up here to sort of create a bit of a bit of a protest and all of that sort of stuff, which is all fine. That's what Greens do. But I can tell you, I will letterbox every single house around this area to let people know when those hearings are coming up. If there are further draft plans, I will make it my business to make sure that everybody in this area has copies of those draft plans and you're all included in the process. I don't have a particular view on it one way or the other. Mind you, I have to say, I do have a real soft spot for the Gwalwa Daraniki Association, who have been trying for years to derive an income from their land, what they see as their land. So in that regard, I want to see them develop something where they can earn an income and where they can find employment for their children and the like. But the type of the development that happens here, I think really is the responsibility primarily of the developer and secondarily of the local community, and I'd like to see as many people having as much input as possible into the process. I understand that there are people here who do not want to see anything happen here and they want to see this continued conflict. That's not my desire. I do not want to see conflict. I don't want to see people arguing together. I want to see people sitting down in a responsible way, looking at how we can meet the interests of the GDA and also the wider community and actually get something here that will benefit the entirety of the Northern Territory area. That might be a pipe dream, but it's not a bad starting point, I think. So,
Dave, can I ask you a question?
Hi,
we want to ask a question.
Thanks, David.
Do we need any more sheds and warehouses in Darwin?
Look, the question is, do we need more sheds and warehouses? you know, we can either sit on our hands and just say
yes
no,
or
but
yes or no, she asked.
well,
What about the empty sheds in Darwin?
we do need more sheds and we do need more development because Darwin is growing.
Well,
that is a fact.
There's dozens
that is
that
a
are
simple
empty now,
fact.
Jape.
Population growth is peaked at around somewhere around between 1 and 2% per year. More people are coming to the Northern Territory. More people want to get work. More people want to store things. I mean, it is true. It doesn't matter where you go, anywhere in Australia, you will see vacant sheds and you will see vacant commercial buildings. That is a reality of commercial life. People leave a building, other people will take up the lease. But the fact is, we have a housing crisis in Darwin. We also have a commercial.
But you're not building houses there.
We also
because
have
of the flood crisis, you wouldn't be allowed to.
Winnelli is almost full up. There are businesses looking for places to establish, and there is a very real shortage of places. It's not just our housing market that's in crisis, but it's the whole commercial industrial market that's suffering.
Everything that makes Darwin unique.
That's right.
Has there been any consideration to remove, change the plans and have the buildings to the other side?
One of the problems that I understand is that a large part of the other side is underneath a flight path. David talks about the birds and the like in this area. One of the concerns, of course, of the RAF and the people at the airport is the birds. You know, particularly birds that soar high in the air is not a, you know, they don't really want to encourage more birds into the area in that regard.
What about those red-tailed black cockatoos over there that are the totem of the Larrakia people?
David, look, I love the black-tailed cockatoos.
You're not doing anything about it, about your love.
Look, I lived for 5
5
years out at Beatrice Hill. We had a flock of thousands. I love seeing them every morning. But I'm not living at Beatrice Hill anymore. I'm living in the middle of Darwin. I'd like to see kangaroos hopping down our streets, but that doesn't happen anymore.
We don't have kangaroos in the Northern Territory, I don't think.
I do everything in my power to attract native animals and birds and the like into our community. I think they beautify the place. I like seeing greenery. I like seeing trees. I don't like seeing areas where you've got grasses running wild, people dumping stuff in the middle. Goodness knows what happens in these areas after hours. You know, when it's all cleaned up and tidied up, turned into a beautiful nature area, I think people will enjoy this amenity.
What, with industrial sheds? As Larrakia people know, real history.
To try and resolve some of this conflict.
Well, at the moment, the previous government has rezoned the land. So that's a decision that's already made. Like I say, about a quarter or a third of this side of the block has been rezoned for light industrial development.
No pink signs.
The 2/3 or the 3/4 that's on the other side is to be left as vacant land.
I'd like to reply to that, David. I went to the planning meeting last year in town. Several people went there with me. There were in fact more people against the development than for the development. Now, I'm not blaming David's government. It was a different government that squeezed through. But we're worried that another thing is that David hasn't really answered my initial question. What did he feel about residents losing money on their own houses? And some of these residents have lived, hold on David, some of the residents in Ludmilla North, this area here, have lived here for over 40 years. I know Michael Chin said that we should all move away earlier on in the piece, but what do you say about that, David? What do you think about government allowing people to lose their most valuable asset?
David, if it was about improving the value of your property across the road, we'd probably build $50, $10 million houses on this side of the road. I mean, I don't think that would satisfy your desires either. My impression is you don't want to see anything occur here. Let me just say, and I'm no expert in the property market,
But my understanding is if things are done appropriately and in the right way, there's no reason at all you should lose any value at all on your house. Absolutely none. If things are done inappropriately and you do end up, as you predict, that we're going to have some dreadful industry here spewing out harmful chemicals with all the birds dead around the place.
Village on back at Road Corner.
I don't know of too many nasty harmful chemicals coming out of Jape Homemaker Village. And I don't know whether the residents around there have complained. I mean, look, I used to love the Dolphin. I thought it was one of Darwin's great pubs. It was a great spot, and I've often talked to Alan Jape and his family and said, I don't know why you've had to knock down the Dolphin Hotel. I thought it was a great old place and it was part of Darwin's history. But the fact is, places move on, and look, I'm not going to argue the rights or wrongs of the Jape Homemaker Village. Clearly, there are a lot of businesses doing quite well in the Jape Homemaker Village.
Yeah, there's good progress and bad progress.
Well, I can't understand why this necessarily has to be seen as bad progress.
Do you know what? There's plenty of plans. Look at Leanne, where the plans were to have a
I think it was Margaret Clinch wrote to the newspaper and said that basically the government reacted to developers rather than an all-over development for Darwin, a proper plan. Margaret Clinch said that the government just reacts to development. We know why developers develop is to make money. What we're not sure is why governments let them. And I'd like especially to reiterate my point, we don't want to leave that land as it is. We want to make it better. We want to make it richer. We'd like to see an Aboriginal park there of native species of plants, of native species of birds. We'd like to see government input to help that. We'd like to see a series of paths, walking paths for families and for eco-tourists that come to Darwin that would act as fire breaks. We'd like to see a grass control system. We would like to see this land back as it was before Cyclone Tracy. And there would be a lot of jobs for everybody, and especially for the people of the Gwalwa Daraniki. Yep.
Yeah, what about caring for country? Caring and sharing.
We want to have a green belt from East Point to Lee Point, else your vision of Darwin will disappear forever. I'm a school teacher and I'm very worried about what sort of future the kids of Darwin are going to get. What will happen to them? What's going to be left? If we turn the whole of Darwin into a version of Parap Road, which is the most disgusting bit of planning I've ever seen in my life, what's going to happen to the kids? What's happening to the future of Darwin?
They can get a boat and send it to the marina, can't they, Dave?
Was Parap Road disgusting? Black people lived it?
No, because it's got urban infill there. Urban infill, it's got offices, flats, blocks of flats have just all been put in there without any proper overall design.
My great-great-grandmother was one of the first white settlers there who come to this place. I'm the 5th generation on my mother's side, and they're white family, right? And they got no problem with this. How long you been in Darwin, love?
I've been in Darwin. I've been in the territory since I was 14.
Oh, since you was 14. Well, you wasn't born here, was you? You wasn't born here, was you? And where do you come from?
I was born here.
Are there any more questions, please?
What's the point?
Go back to Dutchland or wherever you come from.
Okay.
Go back to Germany. Or wherever you come from.
Yep.
You know that majority, sorry, we're Australian. It's born here. Born at the old Darwin Hospital. You go away. We're going to have our way with our land, whatever you fucking like. If you don't like it, stiff shit. We don't give a fuck, mate. We don't give a fuck about what you think, really.
How come you came
What
tonight?
we want, we're going to put on the land. We don't give a stuff what you say to us.
Why are they
We're still
here?
going to do what we're going to do.
Why are you here then?
Why did you come today?
Don't worry about your country.
Come to show us that.
You people are looking upon this land here.
You might be not listening to the problems we're having. You might be really ignorant.
Your problem is our problem, buddy. I've got the same problem as you. I've got the same problems as you, right?
You're crazy, man. Get your guitar, stop away, man.
Catch that plane. Look at that plane. It goes right over there. So how can they build on it? They can't. It's a flight path. There you go.
We want this
Proof.
land.
That's what happens. The rich get richer and the poor get fucked off.
Ancestors aren't happy about the land being developed. Ancestors aren't happy.
Happens all over the world, mate.
Like as if you own it.
I've said that
What about Citiland Bay? What about Bayview Haven? What about Tipperary Waters?
then
I'm not going to say very much. I really am just going to repeat.
Can you hear over there?
No. I really am just going to repeat what David has said, the comment that I've made in general about Darwin. After working on issues with planning in Darwin for 16 years, our group has just summarised the whole thing. There is actually no planning for the people of Darwin. All the planning we have is in terms of commercial and industry and actually development of large suburbs with no community facilities in them. And this is because the Development Consent Authority does not have a brief to plan for the community.
Come down to Kulaluk and talk to us.
What about that?
The Development Consent Authority's brief is only to approve or not approve development applications coming before it for commercial developments. It doesn't concern anything to do with community facilities or any planning for the future or anything to do with social or conservation. That is what the great fault is for planning in Darwin and throughout the Northern Territory.
That's what we got Kakadu for.
So that's what I just wanted to say. We have to do something about that. We've been putting it up with this for far too long.
Yes. You come down and talk to us. Don't sit there and have your little attitude. Come down to Kulaluk and talk to us, okay?
We had an incident.
No, half you might be a redneck.
Last year.
You're the biggest redneck you are.
Those of you who have been
I didn't grow up with all these people around Ludmilla here. They're not rednecks.
We'll see that the design for those suburbs is very much of a southern design. It doesn't reflect what the community here needs and knows is good in terms of tropical planning. And we had an incident at the DCA last year with Muirhead, when no provision was going to be made for any land to be left for community facilities. First of all, there is no school for either Lyons or Muirhead, or Lyons and Muirhead together. The children have to be bused to 5 different schools. How's that for a sense of place? There is just no planning going on that is based on
going right over the bushland.
Which is based on
left or right. That plan to go to the right, smash into your houses. McDonald's, kids parties there, hundreds of kids. Service station right next door. There's the flight path.
I'll finish up now, but basically what we need to do is to ask the government to plan for the people and think for the people first. Other things are a second consideration. Thank you.
Here has just said when the so-called master plan goes on for public exhibition, that we should all have a very long, careful look at that. In the meantime, I think that our concerned residents group has probably grown a little bit, and I think that we should all get together again. We'd like to email you all and tell us when we're meeting again, and tell us what we've found, tell you what we've found out. Maybe you can come along with some other ideas as well. It's 6:25 now. I'd like to thank you all very much for turning up and coming along and listening to this. Also, has anyone else not signed in for their Gmail address, please? Please do so if you haven't. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming along to the meeting. Thank you.